heavens above, and I believe in truth. I believe in the love we have, because I believe in you. So tell me, do you feel the way that I feel? And tell me, would you give what I'm willing to give? And I believe in honesty, and I believe it's true, and I believe if you set it free, it will come back to you. And I believe that things were meant to really be, and I believe in the love we have, because I believe in you.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to UCY.TV. I'm Vince Easley for J. Cynthia Brooks on Cancer Kickers. Looks like I may be stood up. My guest is not showed up just yet. So hopefully he's going to get here. Because this is a subject that I really find myself to be kind of lacking in, and something I was very interested in hearing. So, let me say, yes, Jules, let me have the phones. I think hopefully I'll get Becky to call because I think I'm going to need some help. And let me jump over here and, okay, since I'm completely distracted. All right, so today we're going to talk about, I think, body harmonics and disease frequencies, and that was the topic of my guest, a longtime listener and participant here at UCY.TV, who, when he does show up, I'll have him introduce himself. So every object has a natural vibratory rate. This is called its resonance. One of the basic principles of using frequency as a transformative and healing modality is to understand the idea that part of the body is in a state of vibration. Every organ, every bone, every tissue, every system, all are in a state of vibration. Now, when we are in a state of health, the body puts out an overall harmonic of health. However, when a frequency that is counter to our health sets itself up in some portion of the body, it creates a that we call disease. I may like to read more from this site, alteredstates.net, Barry/newsletter 420. So I have, thankfully, I have some links lined up. As I said, I am very much not too up on this. It is, like I said, a topic that is very interesting. If I can quote the Bible, God said at creation, and so His very voice spoke into the existence, creation. So, healing with frequencies, to start, let us say that everything, okay, He is there, all right. So, I'll be bringing him on in just a minute. To start, let us say that everything is in vibration, from the chair that you may be sitting in, the paper, the mouse you're holding, everything is in a state of vibration. This is not a new idea, and some ancient mysteries have known this for many a millennium. But now, your scientists are beginning to understand this and agree. It's a wonderful start, isn't it? Indeed. So let me go grab my guest and just a second. I'll bring you in. If I can talk and type. Let's see. And we're going to add him up. Uh-oh. Let's see. You're not giving me an option here. It says add phone number. Wait a minute. Let me try this. Add. No. Uh-oh. I'm having problems. If you're listening, Ordam, Jedi, I'm having a problem bringing you in. Let me do this another way. What I shall do is add from here. And I think we may bring them in this way. Sure enough, it's ringing. Becky, I appreciate you. You put a lot of good posts up today concerning healing oneself with cancer, if I can use that word, healing. I like to say correcting the problem. So we do have our guest on. I'm glad you could make it.
Thank you.
A Master Jedi and longtime listener and participant here at UCY.TV. Let me let you introduce yourself and give some links. You have some websites and YouTube and other places, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, my name's Jordan DeYoung. I've been working with biofeedback for over 10 years now, and I've worked with OnDemand from 2004 to 2011, I think. Been working with Zyto for 6 years, and I was a part of their program with the library authorship, but that was because of the frequencies. I was a trainer for OnDemand for a time, and now I'm with Pulse Tech and Zyto. So that probably means nothing to most people out there, but I've been working with frequencies and biofeedback for quite a long time, and doing it full time as well.
That's pretty awesome. Now, a lot of people, like I just read, even scientists coming to agree that matter is a matter of sound, vibration, frequency, and our body, the world, everything has a frequency. Every object has its own frequency, and I think a lot in the world today we're finding out a lot of frequencies that are artificially or man-made or manipulated, are counterintuitive to our own.
Yeah, it's a whole mess of frequencies where, like, the ELF spectrum basically wasn't full. You had the Schumann resonance, the Earth's heartbeat, 7.83 hertz, somewhere around there. And there's harmonics off of it, of course. And then you had lightning, basically, and light frequencies. But yeah, we're filled in, short band, long band radio. Some of the microbes, they basically lay in low radio, or like long band radio, between like 2 and 400,000 hertz. So a lot of the devices out there, like what Rife was doing is he was trying to hit those higher frequencies by running a carrier wave frequency, like a 5 megahertz frequency. It wasn't exactly that. There was a couple that he could select from. And then he'd run a lower frequency.
Are you talking about Rife?
Yeah. So if you want to talk about Rife and frequencies and ranges and stuff, I don't know what you exactly want to talk about. Like the thing that's different about what I'm doing generally is I'm supervised by doctors. Everyone gets normal blood work done and normal X-rays, and so it's not without references.
Right. Now let's talk to some about the frequencies of disease, and they're off normal frequency, and allows for the disease, I guess, to proliferate.
Yeah, which frequency was that?
Well, of disease, you and I spoke some in...
Yeah. Disease has frequencies, the organs have frequencies, and the idea is that you want those in balance, and not... like a lot of the practitioners that, call themselves that, would say that it's stress. And what stresses mean is that there's high deviation ratios, high levels of resistance, with the signal of the organism. The signal in the Zyto is binary, and if it's from, the OnDemand, or if it's from the Pulse technologies, then it's all those are two different things. But it's either longitudinal, which is like what Tesla was working with a lot, or like a PEMF. So it's a real measurable signal in frequencies.
Now, do you have something Do you have some frequency playing in the background right now?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, we're getting some frequency, but that's okay. So,
Okay.
somebody thought it might be an airplane or a UFO.
No, I'm sure it's. Yeah, I'm sure it's feedback. I'm just off of my computer mic right now.
That's okay. I think we can live with it. So, tell me some about the procedures that you're involved with as far as frequencies in the clinical work that you do.
Yeah. So what my job is people sit down for an hour, and I basically have to set up questions to ask their body. So it's a muscle testing in a way with the Zyto, but I'm not involved with it. And the signals are binary signals, like a JPEG image. There's a bunch of different images for different, be it frequencies or supplements or hormones, or it could be dental or spine, or there's really like 64, about 70 categories of different boxes of the medical world, Eastern and Western, and I'm trying to figure out what questions to ask the person, and then if I get a high level of response, that's reported to the physicians, and then blood work is done accordingly. So it helps them be a better guesser. So instead of like people come into a doctor's office, they fill out like a little questionnaire report or something like this. This is a subconscious questionnaire. And you're speaking in a familiar frequency language, which is familiar to the subconscious, and it's familiar to everything, except most of our conscious perception today.
So you have a machine that you use, and I guess that feedback.
Yeah, that's Zyto. That's a Class 2 biofeedback device for galvanic skin response assessment.
Is that based on
a diagnostic?
I'm sorry. Is that based on some of Dr. Royal Raymond Rife's work?
No. If you know Reinhard Voll.
I do not. Matter of fact, if you could drop any links, if I can distract you and drop any links to me in Skype, and I'll pass them along here in chat and add them to the post as well in comments. So as we're going along, as you get a chance, let's see. I don't have your YouTube page right in front of me.
Which is Ondamed Jedi, ONDAMEDJEDI, and it doesn't have to do with the company. The name is Latin for wave medicine.
You know what? I absolutely did not know what that meant.
Yeah, well, a lot of this technology, you hear about wave technology, or this thing is made with wave technology. There's plasma structuring and used in sometimes curing processes, and there's PEMF applications for sterilization of foods. And some of these studies that you have to find for like electrical medicine are for animals. So,
okay,
yeah. The idea when you do a muscle test or an energy medicine test is that something is put into your circuit to modulate the circuit or change it. And what Reinhard Voll kind of had, like a little revolver thing that you'd slide a couple different tubes in. These tubes were placed in the circuit of the body, and then this this thing would light up and sound if there was a response there with that substance. So it was very direct. It's based off of, I think, radionics, which goes back 5,000 years in India. It's been around a long time, and it's been, recently digitized, in about 1950. With like a lot of this stuff isn't known. George De Loire. I'll pull it up.
What about? I'm looking at some of your videos you posted here. Truth Hurts 8/18/14.
Oh yeah, I posted a lot of Truth Hurts stuff. I mean, it's easier when I don't have people asking me questions or converting me or throwing holy water on me or whatever they want to do. It's easier kind of without that.
And regeneration, lecture, energy med, anti-aging.
Yeah, that was Robert O. Becker. That was something I mentioned on a show, and then Charlie picked up on it. He read the book, and he did a good piece on the body electric. And what Robert O. Becker discovered is that when an injury is healing, it emits a current that is measurable. And then when it's not healing, or if you ground out that healing, wound, just grounding it out to a pipe or whatever, it doesn't heal anymore. And then applying that same wound current to a non-healing wound of the same tissue type, it would heal. And there was specific power and specific frequencies. And obviously, with the injury location, specific placement. So there's dimensions to it. If you just had the frequencies, that'd be a dimension. If you had the power, necessary for it, that would be a dimension, and the location would be another dimension. It just depends on what kind of device you're talking about, with how you try to triangulate, someone's issue or a resonance they're in.
Okay. Coop is psychic. I'm sorry. He asked for some links there in chat for some of your videos. You can find that from the video I did drop in there. That'll bring you to his YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's good to go to the playlist. There's energy medicine, how it works. There's user experiences. There's software guides and kind of do-it-yourself projects on there. I know, like Ricky Gervais' Guide to Medicine, I think is my most viewed video on that. And then you have Zyto, and I just proposed, is it a scam or not? And that's gotten way more views than I thought it would. I don't know if it's at 11,000 or 10,000.
Wow.
But that experiment was set up because everyone says the Zyto is a total fraud. Well, the way to test that would be to put like a wet rag or something that would simulate a hand, just to get some connectivity. And then I run a scan, with the wet paper towel on it, and then with my hand, and, you just see the difference. So there's no resistance to the paper towel, circuit, and, to any substances, and then, the hand produces some. So it was an interesting little thing. It doesn't say that it's accurate for anything that it scans for. It just shows you that, there's something going on there.
Cool. Now, like I said, you're a longtime friend of UCY. I see here Cold Reality back in July, and I think you've probably been on with
I like Cold Reality when it was on Oracle.
Oh, well, huh. Okay. Well, Drew Shawley does Cold Reality Radio here on UCY Sunday morning, but you have been on with him, I think, for certain.
Yeah, quite a few times.
Yeah. Like I said, longtime friend at UCY here. Now, let's talk about Lyme. You've got a post here, a video from 3 months ago, Lyme, a silent epidemic. And this has perhaps probably been kind of genetically engineered, a lot of people say anyways. But tell us some about the Lyme disease.
There's a lot about it. I guess in 1994, I think it was, Alan Steer took and patented 2 of these outer surface proteins that they were using to test for the Lyme. Something that was like cheap, like $30, $25 Western blot at the hospital. And now it's these, they left 2 in there, but they don't come up. Like maybe 1 in 10 is accurate. So the testing is ridiculously expensive for it, and that's if, like, you're lucky if you have Borrelia burgdorferi. Because there's 22 other types in the Zyto, and I think there's at least 100, that they've identified. And Russia's been good about, identifying new strains. All strains of Borrelia are also pathogenic. They're never symbiotic. They will it just depends on, like, if you're talking about the American Lyme. Are we talking about that?
Yeah, I guess it was discovered sometime back, maybe I can't remember where. It's been a few decades ago, and it got its start. I believe it was, they say, was in some air ducts.
Yeah, Lyme County, Connecticut. It was discovered by Willie Borgdorfer, and that's his, somehow an official name is Willie. And he looked right under a microscope, and he's got an interesting job background, I think, with some of the government guys, and he found it right away. So that's interesting in itself, whether it's a creation or not, because all these it was discovered because teens were getting rheumatoid arthritis, and parents demanded answers for why, and it was not something that you think, like a toxic waste spill or some industrial pollutant. It turned out to be inside this little tick. So our ticks here, they carry the Lyme seemingly from generation to generation now, which is new. Like Lyme in Africa, a tick has to bite an infected individual or animal and transmit it within 3 days, or else I think that spirochete dies inside the tick.
Right.
But ours seem to be resilient to that. Another thing about the American Lyme is it doesn't just affect knees, or it doesn't just affect nervous tissue. It seems to go to pre-existing problems, scar tissue, or it's usually cardiac or neurological, and it can move, and you can have different symptoms on any given day. And the range of symptoms, it's called the Great Masquerader. Syphilis was called the Great Imitator. They're in the same, I think, at least family. They're pretty close related. If you pull up Google images for syphilis and Lyme disease, they look nearly identical. And it's the same problems, where it masquerades as so many diseases that doctors running by protocols, and they have to do that, and by their rules right now, will name it as so many other diseases besides Lyme. Because the Lyme is, outputting these other characteristics, and medicine today is based on symptoms that you know about. It's not, some kind of a scam.
Well, I don't know why that I've got this background noise. I have no idea where it's coming from. But anyways, a couple minutes late for the 420 report from the Buzz Beaver. Let me ask you some about the cannabis plant. And does frequency have anything to do with its ability to, in the correlation and correction of cancer care?
Well, I anticipated this coming up, and when you have good circulation, which I think if you're running, supportive frequencies, and alongside any drug or any remedy, you're going to increase circulation of that remedy. So usually the amount that you need goes down. That's been fairly typical with blood pressure medications and other medications, is that improved circulation reduces the need, and people will, it's usually less is more than it was before.
Okay, so what about as far as, well, I kind of lost.
So, I mean, like if you put pads on a certain location, if you had ovarian cancer and, we're stimulating movement with a frequency in that area, I think you can influence the movement of a material to that area specifically. So that's a very interesting application for and use of what you're talking about.
Okay, and does that have anything to do with the cannabinoid receptors in the brain?
Aren't those dopamine?
Well, they're. I'm not certain about that now. Why you ask me? But there is.
Yeah, everyone has their own unique frequency list. Generally, and if receptor sites are glued by something like gluten, or maybe another hazardous chemical, sodium lauryl sulfates or whatever, BPA's, then things aren't going to work as good. And if you can clean those receptors out with a frequency, which is an agitation to the specific tissue or whatever its target is, then you can accomplish quite a bit more.
What about refined sugars? What role can you see in them playing in interference of our natural frequencies?
Well, the whole thing with I don't know anymore. I don't know if it's so much of a problem with what I have, but the old thing is that it's a GMO. No matter how you slice it, if it's real sugar, then it's like sugar beet sugar instead of corn sugar, and it's a Monsanto sugar beet. So you're still getting the Bacillus thuringiensis, but there's frequencies for that now too. So it's bad. Generally, it's like the food that it comes from more than the particle that is manufactured out of it. So sugar's not just a sugar. But yeah, these refined sugars generally not good for us. Like the only other case would be is if you like extreme exercise, or someone's going to die unless they have calorie right now. That's good. But most cases you avoid it where you can.
Yeah, Becky makes a good point about when they do PET scans, they're using radiated sugars because cancers do feed on that. On sugar, that is, and then radiation just increases the cancer. So, wow.
Well, everyone still uses microwaves, basically. They're still real prevalent. So, I mean, people are radiating, a lot. And, their drinks or something, they'll put it in the microwave, and, they should be complaining about that, too.
For sure. Can you compare some of the unnatural frequencies like microwaves, the smart meters, Wi-Fi, and others to are naturally frequencies, or the natural frequencies that occur?
The only one that's kind of close is like the terahertz infrared scanners, but I don't know how. Like those are like the naked body scanners, and I don't know how dangerous those are because to me it's just an infrared, camera, basically. Or like a heat image type of camera that can see through a layer of clothes, and I have a heat camera, and it doesn't project like you're projecting the radiation. It's picking up on. It's not the other way around. So as soon as a signal is high enough to cause ionization, then it's bad. So like anything radio wave and up is potentially ionizing to tissue.
Can you speculate on as to the why so many of these frequencies are used? Even our current, our common household current is counterintuitive to our own frequencies.
Well, I don't know. We're held back all over the place. I mean, the iPhone was, I think, created in 2000. It was like a little Android platform, and it was held out for like 11 years. And the electric car is 100 years old, and I mean, we're not allowed to really progress or. I don't know, like it's set up that way, and America was all set up haphazardly with the electrical system. That's why our grid can go at any time. Where I think Germany has never had an electrical failure since World War II.
Now Texas has their own grid, which some claim that puts them vulnerable. The whole grid system goes back to the money powers in the early part of the 20th century. With
Sure.
Tesla technology and this supposed smart guy, everybody probably know who I'm talking about. But it was all a matter of money, and if you can extract all the energy you need from the air, from the magnetic field of the Earth, and transmit it without wires, I mean, there goes a lot of the industry.
Yeah, I mean, we're going through the universe pretty fast. There should be some energy, that we could pick up off of that, and they would be all, local. I think any house would have their own power station, like that. That would just pick up on that, and it wouldn't. And then it could be power could be sent scalar. Like with Tesla, he's sending power scalar, so it's not going from point to point. It's at both points at the same time. It's transferred something like 1.54 times faster than the speed of light. And it's just at 2 points simultaneously. I guess, with acupuncture, you could shine like a laser on the foot and have it, appear in the brain. And it's not measured in, tissue between the 2 points. So that would take care of, interferences between us and, the electricity we're using to power our devices. Because it would be, existing in the device and existing, only in the power output or whatever.
Okay. What is can you call to mind what the regular frequency is of the Earth? I really have a hard time recalling.
Schumann resonance.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it's the ionosphere and the diameter of the Earth and the speed of light, and it just works out to be 7.83 hertz, which should be done in sine wave, and it's can be pretty low powered. I was with like Barefoot Effects for a time, and they did grounding mats, and they produced some studies with the grounding, but their grounding studies weren't done with mats; they were done with tens unit pads. So if you have a mat or a sheet that can transmit electricity, it can also usually pick up electricity from electromagnetic sources. So even though your mat or your sheet is plugged into the ground, your home's electrical current could override that, and you can measure 60 hertz on this sheet when you think I'm getting my 7.83 Schumann for a better night's rest.
Well, I've heard in the past and seen where like missionaries to places that have snakes with no anti-venom, they use a taser to kill the venom. And a friend of mine here was using the igniter off a barbecue grill and on a brown recluse spider bite, and it breaks down the toxins. Is that to do with frequency, or how does the electricity itself
That I think is a wireless die-off effect. So there's these death signals that the bacteria can produce amongst each other, and yeah, if you took that spider and burned it, away from your body, and it injected some germs into your body, and you killed the germ inside the spider, the same germ exists from the bite it just gave you, that the germ inside your body is also supposed to die when the other dies, because you have just like a wireless communication of the bacteria wherever. So to isolate that spot where the poison's coming in, you're kind of isolating it through a radiological effect, because everything has its own resonance, and so with the poison, so with the bacteria, and so with spider. So with like borderlands.com that's getting into radionics. So it's just these radionic signals that everything is always communicating with each other. So this experiment they went over in Borderlands was they had a corn weevil problem in this crop. So they took a bit of corn, ear corn, and like the weevil, and they exposed this to pesticide, and then they found a frequency for it. Then they broadcast the frequency of the the corn weevil and the pesticide, and apparently it kills all the corn weevils in the crops, even though you're separated by a distance. That was one of like the really far out energy medicine studies.
Cool. Okay, I've got this opened up, the link you provided on Vimeo, Borderlands Sciences. So looks like several postings there.
Oh yeah, they're like a museum for energy medicine. There's how to build your own device, or how to build your own beam ray device, which is kind of like 1950s, 60s, 80s rife. It's got a lot of do-it-yourself projects, and that's people should begin wherever they can. And you could use Audacity and like tens unit pads through your audio jack and start working with frequencies, or start thinking about them. And sometimes people gain some small successes, which will make them pursue more of this stuff, and then they might start building coils or whatever it is.
Now down in Mexico in the frontier, they got guys walking around. They've got this little battery packed and two prods you hold on to, and he turns it up and to see how much electricity you can take, and the higher it goes, the more you grip. There's the difference, I guess, between alternating and direct current. One would knock you off, and one would grab hold. Are you familiar with that box I'm talking about? Is
that called like a field phone?
Well, it's kind of more of a novelty there in Mexico. I'm not sure where it originally started, but the electricity running through it actually is pretty good about alleviating joint pains, from rheumatoid arthritis.
Sure. As long as you can get a signal to occur, like the ramping up of the power within 20 microseconds. You can put energy into a cell, and I think you're creating more ultraviolet inside the body when you run electric currents into it. And the ultraviolet, there's a lot of studies with that and how that kills, say, like viruses or bacteria. So there's a lot of ways that this stuff can work. Energy medicines, even like gravitational, therapies, which would be like inversion.
Now, how does a TENS unit work?
A TENS unit works by basically sending in a pain signal that your body sends out to your brain, but it sends it in higher power to mask your body's pain signal. So it's not doing anything for the issue; it's doing stuff for the pain. But low voltage, in a tissue will create. It's the same thing as acidity, and sometimes you get lower or higher temperatures, in that location, and applying the electric current can provide some level of antioxidants. The electron acting as an antioxidant is a key principle for understanding that. Whereas there's a valence electron on like a vitamin C that's given to a free radical, which is something that's usually just lacking one electron on its outer shell. So you're satisfying it with the electricity or the vitamin C, giving itself.
Interesting. So it's not the same as stomping on somebody's toe when they got a mashed thumbnail there, right?
No. There's a lot into it, and it's not really being investigated. And even with what we've got going on now, which like the U.S. Geological Society, did I send you that map that we've got imported dengue fever? And there's like 50 cases in New York, 50 cases in California. There's maybe 2 cases in the Chicago area, separate counties. And this is, the CDC reporting on it, too. So if that goes anything with Lyme, you can multiply it by 1,000. That's how bad, like, the Lyme thing was.
And what about
when I'm diagnosed with Lyme in 2006 from IGeneX Labs in California. And I was negative for the normal hospital Western blot, but I think I had 5 bands positive through IGeneX. And at that time, no one in Michigan officially had Lyme at all, but with the dogs, we were the second worst state in the country for dogs. So even though these diseases, they're identical between humans and animals, there can be some gigantic politics at play.
Okay, now you said that Lyme kind of was like, was it syphilis or gonorrhea?
It's like syphilis where it masks symptoms of diseases, or it mimics symptoms of diseases.
Okay. Now, the AIDS, seen a lot about AIDS, and looks like maybe medicines are actually causing the death of people, kind of like people that take cancer treatments from the mainstream.
I kind of believe that AIDS is... I don't know what AIDS is, but I think it's real. And there's huge nutritional problems. There was a study done by Orthomolecular Molecules on K-Pax, and which is a rice protein concentrate, and improved their immunity something like 30%. So that was like a nutritional deficiency, and it's also a glutathione builder. If you don't have glutathione in your body, you can't really detox anything. That's the problem there.
Tell me more about the what was it?
Glutathione.
Glutathione.
So if you don't have magnesium and glutathione in your body, both of those need to be attached to a toxin to excrete it or to pass it. So like as you age, the processing of the glutathione will go down. It'll certainly be stressed. Say if you're like dealing with a bad case of Lyme disease, which is about all of them. And you run low on this stuff because the germs, if they're a bad germ, usually produce a lot of bad poisons. And then if you try to have like a normal American lifestyle and you're partying and stuff, you're just adding to this this toxin overload, which will overwork the kidneys and liver, and usually stress the adrenals to the point where people are almost immobile.
Okay. Now, Dr. Reif discovered fundamental frequencies by exposing particular microorganisms to his device. And so when a sine wave frequency, was discovered that either devitalized, killed, or physically disrupted the organism, this was a record as the fundamental frequency. As we utilize the power of subharmonics, power in each subharmonic division diminishes by half. Modern-day frequency instruments utilize square waves to create a CFR. Square waves produce harmonics which will eventually match the true resonant frequency. That comes from ultimatehealing.com. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, so like the ultimate frequency for Lyme is somewhere around 380,000, and Pulse Technologies PFG2Z can do 380,000 square wave. It could do 10 million square wave. So like that is the rate of it, and that might be a lower one. There might be one at like 1.6 million, somewhere in there. And what he's talking about with a harmonic is if you go like one down from there, you're at like 190,000. So then you just need one harmonic, to get up to the true destructive rate. And the further down you go from there, the longer you have to spend generally on the organism. So if you had the true frequency, right away, 380,000, which I guess some of the new plasmas are doing from them, you could get things done maybe in a minute. I usually work for 3 minutes, and I'm in the 50,000 hertz range generally. I work between 20 and 90,000 for the most part. And I'm about, 3 minutes to get that resonance destructive effect. And to get a destruction is not only a good goal, because there's a point where it's oscillated to death, but it hasn't exploded, which would expose the body or the tissue around it to the toxins inside the bacteria. So there's supposed to be a time. We're trying to figure out like the time that you have to expose these microbes to, and different ones will have different lengths of time, to where you're shutting it off, but you're not making it explode. So if you're doing something like colloidal silver, that's exactly what you're doing, is you're plugging an oxygen receptor site with a diatomic silver molecule that suffocates it, but it doesn't, like an antibiotic will eat the outside. It usually will eat the cell membrane or disturb the cell membrane, which you have a release of toxins from the bacteria again. But if it's a colloidal silver, then that's of the proper size, then it will just fit, suffocate, and you don't deal with as many toxic effects. So the whole thing with Rife is that there's this problem, and we're going to kill it. And people forget about supporting their own frequencies, which is more of the body electric, tissue, wound current frequencies that are so important. It's like when we do like a war on our disease, we have to remember that it's in our body, which we have to take care of. So like having the glutathione, the right amounts of amino acids, and especially like 3, 6s, and 9s in our bodies to structure the right membrane materials. Because if our cell membranes don't have the right materials, you can just forget it. It won't expel toxins. It won't intake minerals. So just to think of the fats first with nutrition, it's hard to say that's first, but it's very important. So the nutrition and the frequency should basically go together. I think Rife worked with standard process when he did his frequencies, so he was creating some of these effects, I think, probably like cataplex or some of the other immune formulas where he's helping those work better. Not in the rats, of course, but I think in the people. And there was always a healthy set of frequencies he would run, which have been used throughout. So Rife ended, in like 46. He had John Crane. John Crane took it from plasma to plasma and contact, multi-soul contact units. I think maybe 50,000 in Mexico. I guess 35,000 cases, according to his frequency polarity research manual, is what that's called. So 35,000 cases in Mexico, through basically John Crane's training and, those little devices. So, like, the whole myth is that, Rife stopped, that's it. But Crane continued, through the 90s, and you have other people in there as well, and work being done abroad.
Okay. Now, is there any danger for somebody building their own frequency machine and, applying frequencies to themselves? As long as maybe if you're under that 1 megahertz, or is there any chance of...
Well, you generally want to stay under 300,000 because that's where the radio frequencies begin. And I know you're under the destructive, the exact destructive resonance for, the microbes, but it doesn't ionize tissue at all, so you're generally below 300,000. With the plasma builds and things like that, you can get into some very specific things. Whereas you don't want to signal light off of mercury, because then you'd be essentially like a fluorescent lamp. And I believe, our exposure, our sensitivity to the fluorescent lights have to do with the reflection off the mercury that's inside, or the poisons that are inside those lights. So you have to build it like this noble gas generally, and some of the ones like the low heat ones like helium, I guess, which are in a lot of the units. You can run those things for about 2-3 minutes at a time, and then you have to shut them off because they're getting so hot. You want xenon in there. Xenon produces the ultraviolet. And you need a quartz tube to signal an ultraviolet through. And I keep on saying ultraviolet over and over again because biophotons, our light emissions, always exist in the ultraviolet and then, visible, color, infrared. So, but there's always an ultraviolet component. And if you're working with like a leaded glass tube, lead will block the ultraviolet. So you're blocking, your body's preferred signaling. And then sometimes you're working with usually high voltages with the plasmas, so there's danger there with building them. But if you know what you're doing, yeah.
Now, what role would iodine play in any of this?
Well, it's antibacterial, and it's good for thyroid in guys, and then the ovaries, breast, and thyroid in women. But that's just like more of a question that I ask like the Zyto. I'll run like a full nutrition scan, and then you just see what minerals are reactive, and usually the ones that they've been taking are so low that they don't really need them anymore, and there may or may not be a need for iodine. I like kelp supplements. Like my selenium supplement is actually a kelp supplement. There's quite a bit of iodine in that. So you have to kind of check, Now,
the reason I asked is back in the 70s we've seen a shift in our breads from having iodine to being replaced with bromium. And is there any correlation there as far
chromium?
as bromine?
Oh, bromine.
Or bromine.
I don't know what the relationship is. I know, iodine's the only thing that ran so low in people, they put it in salt.
Unfortunately, table salts is just, basically what's left over after some processing, as opposed to some natural ancient main salts like the Celtic sea salt or the Himalayan, which has so many more trace minerals.
A lot of those don't have a lot of trace minerals, though. Like, compared to a coral calcium or humic acid or fulvic acid, you're really not dealing with near the amount of trace minerals as you're thinking. It's usually very low.
I would have thought that as well. Now, with the Fukushima and just the general pollution of the ocean, so sometimes we may be trying to find maybe something a little different than kelp, especially if it's from the Pacific Ocean specifically. Would you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I don't know. With radiation, some people are not reactive to it, some people are. with Fukushima, I think there's 50 plants in the U.S. that might outgas and might not tell the public, every time they do it. So we have like a huge toxin, industrial waste problem that's happening here. Like 3 million people's waters were affected when they fracked underneath the Ohio Basin. The BP oil spill in Lake Michigan was just this last year. And it's fucking sick.
Extremely. Yeah,
it's
very.
Really bad.
It seems like, there's just so much is going on that's really just against life here. That it just seems like it can't be accident. I mean, they got to know, people that are involved in high levels got to know the poisoning going on. And Jeff Weferson this morning starts off here Saturdays on UCY.TV on the Brink. Very good program this morning, and he covered a lot about the parts per trillion, and I forget what the some of the components were, but the ocean's just a toxic soup these days. It seems.
I think nature will clean it up a lot quicker than everyone realizes, but at the same time, it's a war going on right now, and I don't know if these microbes that we're getting right now are natural, man-made, a combination of both. Once it gets released into nature and into people's bodies, it will mutate, to their specific heavy metals and their specific body chemistries. Yeah, there's a major problem going on. I distill basically all my water, and then I might add minerals to, a couple of, some of it, and drink the other, bit of it clean. I'm just always trying to detoxify myself, and then, fight for clean food, and I take a lot of chlorella. So I got 5-pound bags. I mean, I'm not dealing with little pill bottles of it.
It gets pretty pricey, doesn't it? If you're trying to go to a health food store and buy all this stuff, I mean, you can break the bank pretty quick. So there is some alternatives, I guess.
Yeah, like my vitamin C, I get it from a bodybuilding place called hardrhino.com. I get my MSM and BCAAs from there. BCAAs are generally like leucine, isoleucine. They can be good for viruses, rebuilding collagen, and so are like the MSM and vitamin C as well as being antioxidants. And the essence MSM is sulfur, and sulfur is like the number one mineral for joints. If you're wondering about that, foods.
I'm sorry. I go to the feed store and get MSM there, 1 pound tub for $10. It's for horse joints.
Yeah, that's the same price that I'm paying.
That's pretty good. Now, I have a question in chat from Becky, and she has a question for a fellow. She says, what makes one reactive and one not to radiation?
I think they're starting to discover, certain gene expressions. But you have to just go look at Chernobyl and what's happening there. Because, there was a lot of radiation sickness. There's freak animals being born. But the ones that exist there today, be it horses, moose, wolf, bald eagles, the fish, they're reproducing in higher numbers, and it's a good ecosystem, albeit a very irradiated one. I mean, who would thought? They thought that place was going to be, the dark side of the moon for like 10,000 years, right?
Wow. Now, the reason she said that, they passed out some iodine tablets here a couple of weeks ago in her part of the world. It's 10 miles from a nuclear power plant. And what about these iodine?
My friend worked on a nuclear sub in the Navy, and he's just took charcoal pills, or he wore like a charcoal thing on him. The charcoal is very good at absorbing radiation, and salt was credited to the people surviving like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, people with a high salt miso diet, which also had a lot of seaweed in it, so you had like the iodine plus the salt. That was pretty good for radiation. But yeah, I love charcoal.
That's very interesting. Yeah, activated charcoal is used in hospitals for people that overdosed. It's a great absorber of toxins. I had no idea that it also worked for radiation. So
if it worked for radiation, it would probably work better than like aluminum tinfoil hat would. Really.
I have my tinfoil hat on now. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's good for a fellow.
Yeah, so so with the Lime, when I started out, there was one frequency, and we were hitting a subharmonic of about like 740 hertz. That's exactly what it was, and it depends on who you ask. It's like 740 to 743, somewhere in there, in that low harmonic range. But now I have a list of 1,500 frequencies. It's just all these places it can mutate to. With viruses, I have 1,000 frequencies for viruses. From the lists are for like H5N1, and then I've got the hemorrhagic fevers. I'm not going to name them, but and then there's hepatitis and herpes, series viruses, and there's 1,000 of them, and these colonies are always mutating, and so the frequency is so much easier to adjust than like a prescription or something else, which they also are doing. Have you heard anything about xylitol recently?
I have not.
Okay, taking xylitol 6 times a day was as a gum or any way you have it, is supposed to keep germs from sticking to tissues.
Xylitol, is that like an ingredient in gum? Bubble gum?
It is if it's a germ-killing gum. Okay. So if it's anti-germ gum, like fresh breath gum, then xylitol could be in it. It's good. It's a northern plant, which is good for me. I like historical, plants, but it seems to be the one that kills some types of staph, some types of it, but then it prevents any, biofilm, which is like a collection, like a germ colony, which are all over our bodies, prevents that from sticking to the tissue. So if it can't stick to the tissue, it can't hurt you as much.
That's very interesting. What plant does that come from? And also, before we run out of time, do you have any? Do you have a link that for all the frequencies you're talking about? Do you have a place that you share your work?
DeYoung Health Consulting on Facebook. I'll get the link for you.
Okay, drop that in. And while you're doing that, let me. Okay, I think you just dropped that, and I'll drop that in chat before we bug out. Then let me share. Coming up at 8 o'clock tonight, I'd like to encourage everybody to stick around. Come back. The Ocelli effect is at 8 o'clock on the East Coast. And tonight, Mr. Ocelli welcomes back the legendary Miss Maria Heller, known worldwide as the Mouth That Roars. She is a pioneer of alternative media and a unique voice encompassing spirituality, philosophy, and politics. And that's tonight here on UCY.TV, 8 o'clock on the East Coast. And I'd like to encourage you all to come back. Chuck is a great orator. He doesn't give himself much credit for that, but fantastic. I'd like to thank you for coming on with me today, brother. It's been very informative. I'm opening up your link here to Facebook. DeYoung Health Counseling. We'll pop that over to chat. Anybody on Facebook would like to come in.
One more thing is that hedge maple buds seem to have a big antiviral activity, and they're indigenous about everywhere in the United States.
What's the name of that again?
Hedge maple.
Okay.
Little maple trees, little twirly birds that come off of them.
Yeah, sure. So there's different types. There's a lot of
activity, and free for everybody.
So what do you do? Just eat the seeds?
Yeah, you just have to fight squirrels over them.
Yeah. Just trying to get a nut.
Yep.
It's time's up, brother. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks, everybody,
thanks,
for joining in. If you're listening downstream, come back to UCY.TV. Join in the great programming. I was telling a friend earlier, this is the place to be. Love and peace, y'all. We're out.
I believe in angels, and I believe in you. I believe in the simple things and everything you do. I believe in the heavens above, and I believe in truth. I believe in the love we have, because I believe in you.